Hello and welcome back. Today I'm going to be watching another video by Today I Found Out, and this is one that he will go over, can the Queen get away with murder legally? So this will be interesting. I mean, I don't even know what power she has. I'm trying to learn more about, the royal family, the powers, and just kind of how everything works in England. And this will be kind of interesting. So I'm curious to see what they say and can they legally, although how impractical it might be. Just curious to see what they say. So let's get started.
As the reigning monarch of the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and a bunch of other countries that put her on the money, the Queen enjoys something known as sovereign immunity. In a nutshell, sovereign or crown immunity, as it is sometimes known, means that the Queen is, for all intents and purposes, above the law. So does this mean that if the Queen really wanted to, she could go along, kill someone, and then just get away with it completely scot-free? Well, the answer is that, in theory, yes, that's absolutely possible. It turns out that the Queen can commit just about any crime anywhere in the world and get away with it legally thanks to the fact that she enjoys both sovereign immunity and diplomatic immunity. As we talked about in a previous video about whether diplomats can get away with murder, diplomatic immunity is so exceptionally far-reaching in its scope that a person protected by it could indeed go all lethal weapon 2 on everyone with just total impunity. The only problem for those diplomats is that their home nations probably wouldn't take kindly to them murdering someone, and beyond recalling them, they'd likely also face prosecution at home for the acts if they were serious enough crimes. Now, as we mentioned in that previous video, minor crimes like flouting any and all traffic rules and racking up many thousands of dollars in parking tickets without bothering to pay does tend to be seemingly every nation's diplomat's favorite pastime. Okay, so let's go back to the Queen, because unlike with most diplomatic immunity, she doesn't technically have to worry about what anyone in the UK thinks. You see, part of her immunity stems from the fact that all justice in the UK and various other countries that she rules is meted out in her name. Now, it goes without saying that the Queen doesn't personally dispense this justice like the kings and queens of yore. It would just be, well, rather impractical. As a result of this, whilst the Queen is considered the fount of justice for her subjects, the ability to administer it is doled out to judges all across Britain. You see, part of this immunity stems from the fact that all justice in the United Kingdom and various other countries she rules is meted out in her name. Now, obviously, the Queen doesn't personally dispense justice like the kings and queens of yore. It would just be impractical. Likewise, the Crown Court similarly dispense justice in the Queen's name, and as a result, all cases brought before it are tried as Arthur, Regina, or the Crown against blank. Unsurprisingly from this, it is not technically possible for the Queen herself to be tried before the Crown Court, as it would involve her prosecuting herself. Looking more deeply, her sovereign immunity also makes it so that the Queen cannot be tried.
I'd like to know if there's any instances, maybe not, murder of, the royal family murdering someone in the past, but some other maybe crimes that they could pull off. I wonder if there's any instances of the, past couple hundred years is too much. Maybe the past 100 years of if anything has been kind of sketchy with them, if they get away with it. I wonder if there's a case of that, or we don't know about it yet.
Tried in civil proceedings either, meaning she cannot be sued or have other such civil proceedings brought against her. The Queen also cannot be forced to testify in open court or even be interviewed by the police, not that this matters, seeing as she can't be arrested. And even if she could be legally arrested for a crime, it wouldn't matter anyway. You see, technically, no arrest can be made in the monarch's presence without her consent. Thus, arresting her is impossible to do on this count because it would most definitely have to happen in her presence. This protection from arrest if you're in the presence of the Queen also extends to her palaces as well, meaning that the police can't arrest anyone, including the Queen, in any palace that she currently inhabits.
So far she seems very, immune to any of this, and if she does get prosecuted, she's prosecuting herself? In a way? Something like that? Yeah, they're kind of just immune, just the royal palace, you don't touch that. And I wonder if there's some, royal court or something within the palace to go about these issues.
Habits unless she gives assent. It's perhaps also worth mentioning that all prisoners in the United Kingdom are held at Her Majesty's leisure, which is why the Queen can pardon criminals if she wills it. This means she could walk out of any prison by telling everyone to simply let her go. Speaking of the police,
I guess it's kind of a way, not quite the president of the United States, but he could just pardon people left and right, it seems like. So in a way that's the same, but she could, pardon herself. It'd be like a president going into jail and then pardoning himself, and then he's out. But I don't think that would work here. But it seems like over there she has more power in that sense. Not like this is a practical scenario in the first place, but...
As with the justice system, they too are charged with dispensing justice in the Queen's name, and all members of the British law enforcement, upon joining the force, must swear an oath that reads, in part, "I will well and truly serve the Queen in the office of Constable." Or to put it another way, the Queen is the absolute authority of the entire UK policing system, and her word is, quite literally, the law. As a result, the Queen could theoretically shut down any attempt made to arrest her simply by telling the officer to just go away. Now, you might say that if she did all of this, surely Parliament would step in and curtail the murderous Queen's powers so that she could be prosecuted. The problem is that all laws proposed by Parliament require what is known as royal assent before they can be enshrined into British law. As the name suggests, royal assent comes directly from the Queen herself, so a Parliament looking to prosecute the Queen would need the Queen to authorise the bill limiting her own powers, which she obviously wouldn't do if she suddenly decided to start treating life like a game of Grand Theft Auto. Another avenue that could be pursued in regards to prosecuting the Queen would be to force her to abdicate, removing the many protections that she enjoys. To be clear though, this wouldn't necessarily open the Queen up to prosecution, as under British law, nothing she does as Queen can be considered illegal. It'd just mean she could be prosecuted.
Yeah, if she's the utmost authority in the country, and the police force kind of are under her, I mean, that makes sense.
For any further crimes that she happened to commit after. It's also worth noting here that the Queen has the power to completely dissolve Parliament if she so chooses and cause a whole new set of people to be elected. And if this group displease her, she is free to do it again and again. It's also the Queen's duty to appoint the Prime Minister, and she could, in theory, appoint anyone she wanted in the position, regardless of the way the British public voted in any elections. So installing someone who would do what she wanted would not be any real hurdle. Thus, it would take a literal revolution for Parliament to rewrite the laws concerning the Queen without her consent. There's a political problem with this too, though. You see, the Queen is the Commander-in-Chief of the British Armed Forces. As former professional head of the British Armed Forces, Lord Charles Guthrie once noted, "The armed forces are loyal, and we live in a democracy, but actually their ultimate authority is the Queen."
That's crazy. I mean, I feel like for us Americans and maybe other people around the world, the Queen was almost just like seems like a figurehead. Doesn't really have, they have a certain amount of, I guess, power, but they're more of like an influence. That's how we kind of see the Queen, the royal family. But it seems like for this, if she really wanted to like flex her muscles and just like of just the royal family, they really could in a lot of ways. And there'd probably be a lot of, conflicts of like, is this right? Is this wrong? Is it, can she just pass Parliament and or get a new prime minister because she says so? So if someone were to actually like a bad Queen, if alternate universe, if she was just like playing life like Grand Theft Auto, I feel like they would stop it. But I think she's very conservative with what power she uses, and she is just kind of seen as a figurehead here, but she has a lot of power still, if this is all true. I'm sure it is true.
Yep, like the police, every member of the armed forces in Britain swears an oath of fealty to the Queen, and she is considered the ultimate authority in regards to military matters. Thus, if there was an attempt at a parliamentary revolution and members of Parliament refused to step down as they were rewriting British law without the Queen's consent, she could simply order the British armed forces to forcibly remove them from power or even line them all up and have them executed. The question then, of course, would be, in such a scenario, would they...
I like this guy too because he doesn't hold back. He just goes full on. He does his research, finds the truth, and then just says, in theory, this is everything she can do. And he's not holding back, which I like.
Honor their oath to the Queen. Speaking of highly trained armed forces, the Queen has a remarkable number of ways she could theoretically kill someone if she felt so inclined. For example, she could instruct a crack team of SAS commandos to silently make a person disappear, tell her personal guard to charge them with their bayonets, or ask the Red Arrows to crash into someone's house. Again, whether the soldier, sailor, or airman in question...
I've never even heard of the Red Arrows. Is that like some special branch of the Air Force, or is it something like in America the Blue Angels? It's kind of like a more like showy. From what they said, the picture I saw right there is kind of reminded me of like the Blue Angels here in America.
Question would honour their oaths and listen to the order is another matter entirely, but the point is, if the Queen ever gave such an order, there is no authority on earth that could legally override it, save for herself. On top of that, if any investigation was ever put in place as to why these soldiers had gone on their murderous spree, the Queen not only could not be questioned in court, as previously mentioned, but could also ignore the matter entirely, as despite her prominent political position, she and everything to do with her private life are exempt from Freedom of Information Act requests. If the Queen felt particularly gung-ho, she could even personally declare war on any nation or person, and thanks to her royal prerogative, need not consult anyone about it beforehand. In fact, she could even authorize a nuclear strike on a person anywhere in the world via Britain's secretive and expansive network of nuclear submarines, again thanks to the fact that all of the men and women stationed aboard those vessels swear an oath to her. Now, you might say that a foreign power would get pretty upset if a nuclear strike happened on their soil, and the International Criminal Court might try to step in. But if they decided to tangle with this rather formidable woman, the Queen could theoretically make her army larger by commandeering any ships that entered British waters, which is another power of hers, and by commanding the various armies of the Commonwealth, all of which swear an oath to the Crown, to come and aid her. That's a lot of nations, and it's a lot of military might. Again, how many of these armies would actually listen, particularly after she decided to go all Armageddon on the world, is irrelevant to the legal discussion at hand. What matters is that the Queen technically has the ability to do all of this, and nobody could legally stop her. Despite the tremendous power she theoretically wields, and the fact that she enjoys a unique legal status as monarch, making her totally and unequivocally above the law, the Queen doesn't utilize even an iota of her full powers. Why doesn't she do this? Well, mainly to keep in the good graces of her subjects, with it being noted by the official website of the British monarchy that although civil and criminal proceedings cannot be taken against the sovereign as a person under UK law, the Queen is careful to ensure that all her activities in her personal capacity are carried out in strict accordance.
Yeah, and this is probably why maybe the rest of the world, or maybe us as Americans, just look at her kind of more as like a figurehead, a very respected figurehead, not with much powers because of this. But legally, she has a lot of powers.
With the law. At the end of the day, she herself swore an oath to her subjects, which she seems to have spent many decades as Queen taking very seriously. Specifically, in her speech at her 21st birthday, she stated, "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family, to which we all belong."
She's done a
so I really hope you enjoyed that video. Just before you go, let me tell you quickly about
that is impressive. Yeah, just they have legally all these powers. They don't use them, of course. You know, you're not going to play life like GTA or some video game, go on a murder spree. But it's interesting to see these videos of what they actually can do, of like these powerful, figureheads or kind of these powers of these large countries, these powerful nations. It'd be interesting to see like what can the president do of the U.S. or Putin or her, which was good. Even in like China, what their leaders can do legally. I don't know how much weight that has in certain areas, but I think the Queen is just more like a figurehead, and the military will really respect her and probably follow her. If she did say something like that, I feel like her powers specifically could go much further than a lot of maybe future kings and queens of England, of Great Britain, or I guess of the Commonwealth, because she's just so well known. So she's proven herself decade after decade after decade. She's there for the people, like she said, as short or as long as she lives. And when you have someone new come in the future, I'm just wondering, I bet they would have kind of just less powers if they ever wanted to exercise these, because they don't have like the respect of being in. How long has she been in power? Isn't it like 70 years or something like that? It's something crazy, or 67. I think she passed up Queen Victoria? That was like 64 years. something like that, and she passed her, you know, by 5 years or so now, so might be the respect out of her. But legally, it's just kind of fun to see these scenarios. I love these, you know, alternate universe scenarios of what could happen, and some of these people might go along with, and others people might stop. So I like this. I really like this channel. I like this guy. I like the research that he does. And once again, us Americans look at her like more just, you know, just a figurehead of England. That's who everyone thinks of. And in reality, legally, she's like one of the most powerful people in the world. So it's kind of interesting to see what's actually true. And just kind of a scenario of if she wanted to exercise her powers, what she could do, and then get all the Commonwealth countries on board as well. So this is a good video. I'm gonna definitely do more. I really like this this guy and these videos of Today I Learned. That's the channel if you want to check it out. And until next time, thanks for watching, and let's keep learning. Have a good day.